Please be seated. The court is now in session. The chamber will continue to hear the remaining of the witness Chandara's testimony, and then we will commence hearing the testimony of another witness, that is through TCW 271. I also note that the witness requests an assistant from a TPO staff to assist him during his testimony. Mr. Sakalboti, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to today's proceedings? Sakalboti, Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to discuss are present, except Mr. Rakang, Kirsampon's defense counsel, who is absent due to health issue, and Nunji is present in the holding cell downstairs due to his health. The witness Chandra, who is to provide his remaining testimony, is present in the courtroom. And the next civil party to TCCP 271 is here and ready to be called by the chamber. Thank you. President, thank you. And I notice Councillor Sunarun on his feet. You may proceed. Sunarun. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honours. Based on the medical report by the duty doctor at the ECCC, Nunchi's backache is more severe today and requests to be following the proceedings from the holding cell downstairs, and that he will deliver his letter to Your Honor soon. And it will be in the two languages, Khmer and English, and it shall be ready by a coffee break this morning. Thank you. President, thank you, Council. The Chamber has heard the request by Mr. Nuji through his defense counsel to follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs for today's proceedings. And Nuji perhaps is present in this courtroom. And the defense team will deliver the letter of waiver of Nunchi to the chamber pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the internal rules, as well as the medical report by the duty doctor at the ECCC. The chamber grants Nunchi's request to follow the proceedings remotely from a holding cell downstairs. And that is for today's proceedings. Nunchi waived his right to be present in this main courtroom, and the defense counsel is required to contact his client to deliver the waiver through the chamber with his signature or a thumbprint. And the AV unit instructed to link the proceedings to the holding cell downstairs so that Nunchi could follow it remotely. And that applies for today's proceedings. And now I'd like to hand the floor to Judge Lavange, who has some questions for this witness. You may proceed, Judge Lavange. And court officer could you also deliver the documents that you have for the witness examination? And Judge Lavange, you may proceed.
Oui.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before handing the floor over to the defense, I do indeed have a few questions that I would like to address to Mr. Kev Chandara. Mr. Witness, can you hear me loud and clearly?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Oui.
Thank you, Mr. Kev Chandara, first and foremost for returning to the courtroom. I have a few questions regarding staff members who were at the Kantachan Security Center during the time that you were imprisoned there. You stated that the center was led by Lai Cha-chen and that this person had assistance. Could you provide any further clarifications? What was the structure? Who else worked there?
As for staff working at the Kantachan Detention Center, I did not know them all, nor their names. I knew Acha Chen, who interrogated me, and another person by the name of Dam, who was the executioner, and there were some other staff who assisted Dam in the execution, but I did not recognize their names.
So if you do not know their names, could you tell us the approximate number of people who worked at the security center?
I did not know the actual number of staff.
En ce qui vous concerne,
during the time that you were imprisoned, you testified that you were responsible for carrying out a certain number of tasks. You were responsible for working at the security center. You stated that you had to transport and, in some cases, bury dead bodies, if I'm not mistaken. Is that indeed correct?
Yes, that is correct. We were asked to drag the dead bodies into the pits for burial. And if there were plenty of dead bodies, then more than 10 of us would be instructed to drag the bodies into the pit.
est-ce qu'on vous a donné...
Were you asked to carry out other tasks, whether it be within the security center or outside the security center?
More than 10 days after I was detained, I was instructed to carry the feces of the prisoners and pour them into a big jar. And I did this also for the urine by prisoners.
Est-ce que vous étiez...
Were you the only detainee who was charged with carrying out such tasks, or were other prisoners also forced to carry out certain tasks or assigned to different sections, such as the kitchen?
As for the kitchen, prisoners were not allowed to go nearby or to trespass that area. We were only instructed to the limits that we carry feces and urine and pour them into a big jar to the north of the kitchen area.
Est-ce que vous avez...
Did you see or do you recall having seen children or teenagers working at the Kantachan Security Center?
I did. The guards at Kantachan were not adults, they were adolescents or young adults.
Est-ce qu'il y avait des...
Were there children who were sweeping or cleaning or who were possibly working outside the security center, either minding cattle or carrying out any other tasks?
No.
Those who were trusted were removed from the shackled during the daytimes to go and mind the cattle, and they will be shackled again during the night time.
En ce qui vous concerne,
As far as you were concerned, during the day, were you cast free from your shackles? What happened?
For me, day and night was no difference. We would not be shackled, and we were only unshackled. Only we were instructed to go and carry the feces and the urine of the prisoners.
j'aimerais maintenant...
I wish now to ask you a series of questions concerning the visit of Mr. Nunchia at Kantachan. You spoke of this. Do you recall, more or less, if his visit occurred at the start of your stay at Kantachan or near the end? Was it before the liberation of the country or after the liberation of the country?
That year's visit was prior to the liberation. I said that because I did not see people who left the Lunar regime arrived, or rather who were the former Lunar regime's servants arrived at Kantachan.
Vous avez été...
You were the first-hand witness of his arrival, or were you told of his arrival? Was it something that you heard about?
When Taji entered the Kantachan's office, we were still in shackles. However, some cadres who used to work for them recognized Taji. And as for me, I was about 70 to 80 meters from him, and I tried to look hard in order to see him, because I wanted to see his face, and actually I looked through the gap in the wall.
Est-ce que vous nous donnez...
Could you please tell us approximately how far or close to you from the area, how well could you see him?
as I stated, the place where I was detained and to where Tachir was standing was about 70 to 80 meters.
Est-ce que vous,
Do you remember the name of staff members who told you that Nunchia was there? Who was the person that told you this? Or who were the people who told you this?
People who told me later disappeared, and I didn't know whether they survived because after I left Krantachan, they also left. And they told me they were actually a former Khmer Rouge cadres, but I did not know their names.
c'était des gardes?
Were they security guards or prisoners who told you that?
They were prisoners. They were detained together with me.
Et vous vous souvenez de
And do you remember their names? Do you remember who those prisoners were? And what duties they had to undertake?
I had not known them before we were imprisoned together, so I did not know their names.
Donc ces prisonniers,
Therefore, the prisoners who were with you had also identified Tachia through the hole in the wall.
Yes, they said that those people who make gestures out there, one was Tachia, but they did not mention specifically Nun Chia. They only said it was Tachia.
et pour vous,
And for you, Tachia and Nunchia were the same person, or were they two distinct individuals?
I did not know Tachir, nor do I know Tachir now. I don't know who Tachir was or is.
bien, vous,
Very well. You stated that you met Nunchia on a second occasion. It was during the screening of a film and a performance given by a Chinese circus. Can you please confirm that?
I can never forget that. Tajir made a brief speech, and I still can recall a few words that he made at the time. He stated that Cambodia was an agricultural country and we will transform it into an industrial country. That's all I can remember about the speech that he made.
est-ce que vous,
Could you please tell the court at approximately what time or date the event occurred?
There was no film showing, and and I cannot recall the exact date.
Lorsque vous avez
When you were heard by the co-investigating judges, I'm referring to E3/5153, ERN in French, 00 2050 94, you said the following. I saw Nunchia again at the end of 1976 when I saw a film and a circus in Takeo province where Nunchia had delivered an opening speech that lasted approximately 10 minutes. Members of the circus were Chinese who spoke Chinese. The speech given by Nunchia was as follows. We are farmers. We are going to transform our country into an agro-industrial country. Does this match your memory when you say that you are not entirely certain of the date?
When I was interviewed at my house, it has been quite a long time, and now I cannot make a recollection well, and maybe I still recall it well when I was interviewed at the time.
Est-ce que vous savez si
Do you know if this Chinese circus had traveled several times to Takeo?
When we were allowed to go and see it, we were thoroughly searched, and I didn't know whether there had been such circus performances there on how many occasions. I would not know.
bien donc pour
Very well. May it be noted for the record that on the case file there is a document numbered D366/7.1.305 rather. This is news from Democratic Cambodia. The French ERNs are S000 12468. There's mention of a tour undertaken by the Chinese People's Liberation Army and their acrobatic troupe. The article mentions their visit in several regions, including at Leibo Cooperative, somewhere around the 25th of November, 1978. Mr. Kyo Chandara, did you meet any other leaders of Democratic Cambodia, be that prior or after the liberation of the country?
In Barai commune, after I left my native home, the local leader there was Tamok. He would go to inspect the pumping station, where we dug canals, etc. And I met him there.
est-ce que vous
Do you recall telling the investigators from the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges that you met Mr. Yang Sari?
I did not know Ieng Sari, nor I ever met him.
Bien.
Very well. Perhaps this is a misunderstanding, but I would note that in the same document that I referred to earlier, that is E3/5153, you said on the same page, I only met Grandfather Mok, but I met Mr. Yang Sari between 1976 and 1977. He was a professor of literature at the Shamron Vishya school. However, I was never one of his students. Does this refresh your memory in any way?
As for Jamran Vijay school, I actually attended there for my supplementary session or class. However, I did not know him at the time, and if I were to have met him there, I would not recall it now. It's been a long time already, since the 1950s or the 1960s. I cannot recall it at all. Even my own teachers, I cannot recall them.
Alors, je précise que
I would clarify that the statements that I just referenced were filed on the 12th of March 2008, so it has been some time. Thank you very much. I have no further questions to ask you, Mr. Witness. I will now allow the defense to continue.
President, the chamber would like now to give the floor to the defense counsel for Nguyen Chia. If you intend to put the questions to this witness concerning the last series of questions put to the witness by Judge Lavange, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. I'm hesitant at the moment. In the light of the answers to the line of questioning, I really don't think he saw Nguyen Chia there. So but on the other hand, we've made a interesting lineup of photos, and why not try that lineup of photos here now with this witness? Otherwise, we will have to deal with this matter maybe with another witness. So I suppose my question would be, Mr. President, if you give me permission to show a set of photos of Khmer Rouge cadres and allow me to ask the witness if he can identify one of these persons, one of these photos of persons on that sheet that we made.
The President, lead co-lawyers, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. In order to properly understand the procedure, I had the impression that Nguyen Chia's defense had concluded the examination of the witness, and it is now Kyo Samphan's defense to ask questions to the witness. For me to properly understand what is happening, are you giving the floor again to the defense to examine the witness on a new document? And it would be logical that all the parties should have that new document, that would be normal? Or do you consider that you'd only give the floor to the Nunchia defense to put questions to the witness on the basis of this new document? I just want to understand the procedure. I am new in this tribunal, and sometimes I have a hard time understanding the order in which the different parties take the floor, and the manner in which the floor is again given to the parties after the chamber has put questions to the witness. I would like to know precisely when the chamber has to take the floor and what is the impact of their questions on the parties and how the parties will be able to put questions to the witness again.
The President, Judge Levain, you may proceed.
Tout d'abord, pour
Let me first of all say that it is exceptional that judges on the bench ask questions during the period reserved for the defense. So this is a peculiar situation. In this specific case, the Nunchia defense has been given the floor to ask questions in light of the questions I have just put to the witness and in relation to the possibility that Nunchia may have met the witness. That is why we are giving the floor to the Nunchia defense team, and we do not envisage giving the floor to the other parties.
Mr. President, Judge Vance, you may proceed.
I just have one question to the defense of Mr. Nunchia. I noted you were obviously thinking while you were talking. So in order to clarify, what exactly... It was clear that any further questions should be restricted to anything which might have come up after Judge Levain's questioning. So given that, what exactly are you purporting to... What facts exactly are you purporting to prove with, I guess, will be this document?
Thank you, Judge Vance. We've tried to establish a document selected from present documents on the case file in order to establish whether the witness is actually capable of recognizing the person he says he has recognized on various occasions. What we have produced is as much as I think possible in accordance with proper guidelines in relation to confrontation, especially confrontation by photos. We have looked at case law at the ICTY, Tadic especially, and other cases. We mentioned it in our email. The reason I was hesitant is because I don't, well, you probably know our position with respect to this witness. However, I think we might as well start with these proceedings right now because there are other witnesses who might have the same issue. So it will be our submission that we show this set of photos to the accused, to the witness, excuse me, and ask him the question whether he recognized Nunchia on the set of photos.
In this case, another question to the witness. Witness, remind us of your age, please.
Witness, currently I am 80 years old, Your Honor.
I would like to know if you have experienced problems with your memory in recent years. If so, what kind of problems?
Witness, when I turn 75 or 80 years old, I lose some memory. have a memory problem.
Is this about things that have happened long ago or about recent things? Do you remember things that have happened long ago or forget? Or do you remember or forget things that have happened recently?
Witness, I lose some memory what happened in the past, and also recently sometime I forget the names of my children, so this is my problem. I'm sorry for that, Your Honor.
This is just a wrap-up question. Has this become worse in the last 6 years? For the record, 6 years, 2008 to 2014. 2008 being the date of the last interview.
Witness, I do not understand well your question, Your Honor. Could you repeat your question again?
In this case, I'll just repeat what you yourself told us. You said from about the age of 75, you started losing memory. That would be about 5 years ago. Is this correct?
Witness, no, it was not completely loss of memory. So it happened gradually, little by little, when I turned 75 and 80.
Thank you. No further questions.
The President, co-prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. We don't object to the use of the photo array if the Chamber thinks it would be helpful, but we do have a few comments on the probative value to attach to any evidence about it. First of all, we note that a number of these pictures are still images from a video, and we believe that the quality of the video is considerably better. The individuals are shown for a period of a few seconds. You can see their expressions. So in our submission, it would be more probative to show the witness short clips of the video. A couple of the pictures are not of the highest quality. That's another point on probative value. And finally, the witness's evidence is, in our submission, more that he didn't have a great opportunity to observe, and his evidence is, to a large extent, related to what he was told by other people rather than what he saw himself. But with that said, if the Chamber feels it would be helpful, we don't object to the use of the photo spread.
If I may react quickly, Mr. President. As you know, there are very strict guidelines as how to set up a photo confrontation. The thing is, if we would do it with video, we would have a big problem in the sense that I agree that the pixels or how you call it is clear. However, people walk in a sequence. If you, for instance, take the Olympic Stadium footage, they walk 1, 2, 3, 4 in a certain sequence. So that would possibly lead a witness to make conclusions on the sequence of people that he sees on the video. So that would be a problem. In any lineup of photos, you would also always need to have people who are completely unrelated to the actual person that you are seeking to identify. My experience is, of course, mostly coming from my domestic practice, and we are following very strictly. I know the police in investigations is following very strictly guidelines, which they call the Oslo guidelines, confrontation guidelines. So there are very strict ways in doing it, and by showing a video that would be not having any probative value as to the recognition by the witness of the persons to be identified. I'm happy to sit down with the prosecution to come up with better images. This is our first attempt. I think it was a relatively well done attempt, but of course it can always be better. But we are depending on the footage that we have, the footage that is on the case file. If there is better material, I'll be happy to come with a better quality photo confrontation set.
The President, the Chamber grants the photo confrontation, and court officer is instructed to hand over the photo to the witness for examination.
He shouldn't turn around.
So, court officer, could you turn to the photo without names underneath? President, witness, could you look at the pictures, and you should wait for the question put by the defense counsel. President, counsel, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, I would like you to have a close look at the 10 photos that you see in front of you. My question is, would you be able to identify for the trial chamber the person you think Nguyen Chia is?
Witness, I'm sorry, counsel. When I look people on the photo, I don't know anyone because I could not see well because of my eyes. I cannot recognize who these people were. I'm sorry.
Mr. Witness, do you have glasses with you, or do you use glasses?
Witness, I take my glasses, but I could not see well from my glasses. Among these 10 people, I don't know anyone. They didn't look familiar to me. The President, thank you. Please move on. And court officer, could you take the photo from the witness and return to the defense counsel? And the chambers now would like to give the floor to the defense counsel for Kilsampan.
Copy is much better of quality than maybe the photocopies that you have. So I would be happy to grant you or give you the original. But that's up to you.
Mr. President, The confrontation on photo should be concluded now, and the chamber is now giving the floor to the defense counsel for Kilsampon to put question to the witness. Counsel, you may proceed. Kung Samon, good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and Mr. Witness. On Monday, we paused on the detention of the witness at Krang Thachan, and there were discussion. You said that you were there for 29 days, but we have a problem to identify from what date to what date. And your response was that you did not remember, and you discussed with your family members and your children to identify the date when you were detained at Krang Thachan. Witness, do you recall the summary I have just told you? Witness, after returning from Krang Thachan, and my family members told me that I was there for 29 days, and I remember well that I was at Krobai Prey for 5 days, so I was detained at Krang Thachan for only 24 days, and my oldest son told me that you might be detained during 1975, but it was probably in late March, and in April, after 10 days of the liberation, you returned home. Defense counsel, so this is the account or memory was not yours personally, it was the memory of your son. Is this correct, witness? Mr. President, please wait, Mr. Witness.
But
Witness, yes, it is correct as you mentioned, because I did not have anything to take note the dates for my memory, because I was in the prison. I'm sorry. Counsel, when were you married? Can you tell the court? Response. But there is one date that I can remember well. After my marriage, I took my wife to celebrate the Buddhism in the middle of its religion, and that was the festival that I spent my time 7 days and night for that celebration. Counsel, thank you. Now I would like to discuss with you about Krang Thachan, because you said that you were detained at Krang Thachan, and a while ago you said that you were detained at Krang Thachan for 24 days. I would like to know how many buildings were there at Krang Thachan for detention when you were there? Response. The building for detention where prisoners were detained at night and during the days, there was only one building. Defense counsel, you confirmed that there was only one building, but I saw an ambiguity, unclear about the size of the building. Earlier you said that the building was 6 by 20 meter, and during the testimony here you said that it was about 3 meter by 20 meters. So could you please tell the court again which is the correct size of that building? Witness, I'm sorry. It was based on my assumption when I saw it. So my assumption is that it was 3 meter by 20 meter. Counsel, thank you. Can you tell or describe the characteristic? Was it north-south or east-west building? Can you tell the court like that? Witness, yes, that building had the coconut leaf wall, and the roof was thatched, and the wall there were 3 layers of barbed wire around the wall, and also barbed wire grill or net on the ceiling. It was a very thick barbed wire layer, and they used the small timber or wood for us to lie down on or sleeping. It was very rough. I was getting hurt when I lie down. So the prisoners were in shackle and cuff, even though they are defecating or urinating. Counsel, thank you. You said that the building had a thatch roof. So what the roof was made of? Response, it was made of sugar palm leaf. It was a dried leaf from the sugar palm. Counsel, thank you. Was that building east-west or north-south? Response, it was a west-east building. There was a bamboo groves and another tree on the other side of that building. Counsel, thank you. I heard your testimony to Judge Lavoine in relation to the number of staff at Krang Tachan, and you said that you don't remember the number of staff. So, do you remember who was the chief of Krang Tachan while you were detained there? Witness, this based on my assumption. I don't know whether he is hiding away, but the interrogator was Acha Chen. Counsel, do you mean that Acha Chen, the one who interrogated you at Krabai Prey? Response, yes, he was. He was interrogating me at Krabai Prey Center, and when I was sent to Krang Tachan, I saw him there also. Counsel, thank you. Can you recall other names of people who you know that was the chief at Krang Tachan, the senior chief, I mean? Witness, I remember Ta Dam. He was one of the executioners. Everyone feared him. Counsel, but you could not confirm that Dam was the senior chief at Krang Tachan. Can you elaborate on this, witness? Witness, I could not confirm that Tadam was the senior chief, because after the 17 April liberation, he was also ordered to carry dirt the same as other prisoners. Counsel, thank you. As regards the number of prisoners in the building, you said that there were about 40 or 45 prisoners. I would like to know further that during your 24 days at Krang Thachan, was there any change in number of prisoners, the new arrival or the sending out of the old prisoner? So can you tell further to the court?
But
Answer. It happened regularly, but not constantly. I was there for 24 days, and then I left. And during that 24-day period of my detention, there had been a movement of prisoners in and out, and some prisoners died. Thank you. Question. Can you tell the court the number of new arrivals of prisoners and those who left? For example, the number or the percentage of those? Answer. It is not possible to make such a calculation. Sometimes 5 prisoners disappeared, and then 5 new ones arrived. Sometimes 10 prisoners were taken away, and a few more were brought in. And it could happen even before or after the interrogation. Question. Let me say for a daily change or for a weekly change, can you tell the court the numbers of prisoners? Answer, as I say, I cannot make such a calculation because the number varied. Question. When you were detained at the Krang Thachan, and it is your statement before this court that you were interrogated, can you tell the court how many times you were interrogated during your 24-day detention? Answer. I was questioned by the same Ajahn Chen. He questioned me 3 times. Thank you. For the 3 interrogations, did it happen like 3 days in a row, or how did it happen? Questioned. It did not happen at the same time. I was interrogated on different days. Question. You stated that Ajahn Chen was the one who interrogated you. Were you interrogated by other people? Answer. I only was interrogated by this one person. I don't know about the other prisoners. Question. In relation to pits, you stated that you participated in the exhumation of 8 pits. Did you refer to the exhumation of skulls and skeleton remains, as you stated that there were about more than 10,000 of them? Or did you refer to the times that you were instructed to bury the dead bodies? Answer. In regards to their pits, newcomers who were still healthy were instructed to continue digging more pits. And at the same time, they continued to kill more prisoners. President Council, please put your question rather precisely, and Mr. Witness, please answer it within the limit of the questioned. Council, my question is, were you the one who dug the pits to bury the dead bodies? Or were you the one involved in the excavation of skeleton remains from those pits? Or did you engage in these two events? Answer. I and other prisoners were instructed to dig the pits, and I also involved in the exhumation of those pits. Question. Can you specify the size of the pits that you were instructed to dig? Answer. When we dug, we didn't know the size of the pits. However, upon exhumation, and maybe you can still see the scar of the pit, the size varied. It could be 2 times 2, 3 times 4, with 1 or 2 meters depth. Question. The 8 pits that you exhumed, were they similar in size or the size greatly varied? Answer. When we exhumed the pits, the sizes of the pits varied. Some were bigger and some were smaller, and the depth was also not the same. Question. Can you tell the court what is the biggest size of the pit and what is the smallest one? Answer. The biggest pit was 4 times 4 or 4 by 4, and the smallest is 2 by 2 meters. Question. On the 2nd February, in this courtroom at 3:16 p.m., you stated the number of the skeleton remains that you gathered, and it was 12,013, rather 10,013, and due to some loss, as some villagers came to take them away, or some were taken away by wild dogs. Can you confirm that that is the figure you stand by? Answer. Through my knowledge, the number of the skeleton remains that we dug out was not the correct number. Counsel interrupts. Can you state it that can you say whether the 10,000 something skeleton remains that you stated the day before yesterday was the figure that you stand by? Answer. Yes, that's the skulls that we gathered. Thank you, says the counsel. President, what is on your mind, the deputy co-prosecutor? You need to be on your feet before the witness responses. so that your standing or being on your feet does not interrupt the flow of the proceedings.
Apologies, Mr. President. Just so the record is clear, that was not the only number that the witness gave for the number of skulls. He also gave the number of 12,132, and that was at 2:14 p.m.
President and Council Kongsamon, you may proceed. Council, thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to the ERN is 052 7797 in Khmer, and in English 314056. My apology, Mr. President. Mr. President, my apology that the document does not exist in the English version. There is only a French version. I have a question to put to you, Mr. Witness. And this is an article written by a researcher named Niang Sochit. And it is extracted from Searching for the Truth magazine. That article is the 60th publication in 2004, and it entitled Krantachan Prisoners. And they talk about Krantachan prisoners, and it also have a quote of the survivor. President, the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Apologies for the interruption. We didn't get the document number, so if Council could just repeat that. Kung Sum On. It's D22/13 70.2. And the ERN in English is 0052 7800. In this article, and allow me to quote, Krantachan prison is located on a hill in Krantachan village, Kuh commune, Tramkot district, Takai province. It is part of the control of Chechun alias Mok, who was the Southwest Zone Secretary. Through the research conducted by DCCAM, 1,045 people were detained, tortured, and killed in that prison. Mr. Witness, have you heard the quote that I just read out? Witness, yes, I have. Counsel, that researcher presented a specific number of people who were killed at Krantachan prison, that is 1,045.
what can you say through this article written by the researcher, because the number he presented is greatly different from the number that you stated before this court? Answer. It seems lost here. Of course, we can say that we did not know when they killed people, but it was apparent to us as to the number of the skulls and skeleton remains when we exhumed some pits, and there were more than 10,000 already. Question. Let me go back to when you exhumed the pits. You stated that you were detained for 24 days at Kang Tachan. How many pits did you involve in digging? Answer. I involved in digging 4 pits to the further east. Question. Did you also involve in covering those pits with dirt? Answer. I only did one of the covering dirt with the largest pit. That's only one of those 4 pits. Question. And after the liberation in 1979, did you actually go to exhume that specific pit? Answer. Yes, I was involved in covering that pit, and that was the first pit that I exhumed. Question. Can you tell the court the size of that pit? Answer. That pit to the furthest east is 4 by 4 meters. Question. What about the depth? Answer. It's 3 meters. Question. Did you also count the skulls that you exhumed from that specific pit? Answer. We did a counting for all the pits that we have dug, and that process was done by the monks involving in the exhumation and the gathering of those skulls. And actually, after some of the skulls lost, we collected those remaining skulls and put on a bed and started counting again. President, you need more time, Council? Council, I need about 15 more minutes, Mr. President. President, we will take a short break now and return at 10:30. And the court officer, could you please assist the witness during the break, and also the TPO support staff, and have them return to the court at 10:30. That is before we resume our session. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ